Davis, a global workforce expert, a certified leadership coach, and a 30-year HR and business executive. I have the pleasure of working with leaders all over the world to build workplace cultures that are inclusive and high-performing and where all talent can thrive. And so I'm thrilled to bring this course to you to help you build a foundation for effective leadership. What's important to know is that you don't have to hold a formal leadership role or a title to be a leader. Effective leadership is all about executing the company's vision and living out values such as integrity, ethics, honesty, respect, humility, and service. It's also about what you do and how you influence and impact others to reach their highest potential and achieve performance goals. I believe that you can lead from any seat in the organization, but there are some general skills that all leaders should possess, and that's what I'll cover in this course. The leadership skills taught in this course are relevant to every organization and every leadership role, whether you're new to leading, you've been leading for a while, or thinking about assuming a leadership role. They also represent what are some of the most common challenges that I see leaders dealing with today, and what research continues to confirm that's critical to effective leadership. With a new toolbox of tips and trends and frameworks and strategies, you'll be set up for success to be the kind of leader that we all want to work with and that organizations seek out. Congratulations on your role as a leader. Now let's get to work. The workforce of today and in the next decade will be more global, diverse, multi-generational, multicultural. They'll be working more virtually and remain hyper-connected. Are you really ready to lead amidst these realities? Listen, by 2030, millennials will become the largest working population at 75%. Those over the age of 65 will reach over 1 billion and may still be working. 54% of the U.S. workforce will comprise of people of color. Over half of the global workforce will be made up of women, and nearly 60% of all college degrees are earned by women today. And we're more hyper-connected than ever before. And in fact, according to Gallup, over 40% of the U.S. is now working remotely, virtually, and part-time. Additionally, the gig economy is altering the way that we work and where we get work done. You might ask, what is the gig economy? Well, it's comprised of contract workers and freelancers and crowdsourced workers and others who are hired for limited engagements, such as Uber and Lyft drivers, Airbnb, virtual assistants, and anyone who can work digitally. So why is this important for leaders? Because with all of this change and complexity, it means that workers' needs and expectations, their ways of thinking, ways of getting work done, and communication styles will be different. Here's a few examples. Workers want more flexibility. They are constantly connected, and many can get work done from anywhere and anytime as long as they can access technology. So leaders must be willing to accommodate this way of working if they want to attract and retain top talent. Workers expect to grow and develop new skills, and they won't stay if their leader is not invested in their success. Trust, it's more important than ever because it's declined over the past 2 decades. So it's important to understand how to foster trust among workers and also how to sustain it within the team. Communication, it varies from generation to generation and from culture to culture. Some workers prefer face-to-face. Others prefer written or email, and others prefer just digital means. And leaders must adapt to the multiple ways that workers need to communicate. There are many more examples that I could share. From my experience, these changes and complexities have caught many leaders off guard and unprepared. As a leader, you have a responsibility to stay on top of all of these trends while building the skills and competencies needed to lead effectively. You also have a responsibility to create the right kind of environment that enables all talent to thrive. I work with organizational leaders all over the world who are dealing with some really common challenges, such as finding top talent, low employee engagement, and dysfunctional workplace cultures, just to name a few. And what I've found to be the most common denominator is a lack of effective leadership at all levels. So where does effective leadership start? Effective leadership starts with leading yourself. And I've discovered that there are 3 components of leading yourself. First, you should be grounded in your purpose, knowing who you are and why you exist. For example, I am clear that my purpose is to transform organizations and empower individuals by helping them get a larger vision for themselves and achieve sustained success. Purpose is the key to life, and it can guide life decisions, influence behavior, shape goals, and offer a sense of direction and fuel passion. Second, you should be grounded in your vision, where and who you want to be. Vision describes what you look like in the future, 3, 5, 10 years from now, and it sets a defined direction for the planning and execution of your purpose and vision. Yes, purpose and vision are tied together. Your vision is the key to fulfilling your life's purpose. Here's an example of my vision: to be a world-renowned global thought leader that delivers transformational value to organizations and individuals. Vision provides clarity for the future while directing us to place our attention in the present. And third, you should be grounded in your values. That's what you stand for. Values are the standards in which we live by. They are the characteristics, the behaviors, and the beliefs that motivate and guide us in our decisions. For example, my top personal values include integrity, trustworthiness, authenticity, faith, and determination. What are yours? Yes, developing into a great leader is an inside job that takes time, hard work, discipline, commitment, and being honest with yourself. And it's a continuous process requiring reflection. So I invite you, take a personal inventory as to how well you are leading yourself. Start by asking yourself these questions. Do I have clarity on who I really am and what is my why? Am I grounded in where I want to be in the future? And do I understand my core values and how do I live them every day? We live in a time of constant change. And to effectively lead others, you need to stay on top of trends and what's going on. But from my experience, you also have to develop at least these 3 leadership skills that are relevant anytime. First, you must build trust and confidence. In a more global workforce, you'll be leading workers with diverse backgrounds, experiences, beliefs, and values, and from various cultures. And instilling trust and confidence is a universal skill that will help others see that you have their best interest at heart and are invested in their success. I've found that building trust starts by being open and honest about the changes and the challenges that are facing the workplace and helping your team through the transitions. Seek first to understand your team's point of view instead of imposing yours. Trust that they want to do a great job and just need your support. And always assume positive intent. This will go a long way in building trust and confidence. You must also communicate transparently. This involves speaking clearly and expressing yourself well with your team and in one-on-one coaching situations. It is important that you facilitate the easy flow of information and encourage ideas and opinions of others. Aim to actively listen and convey understanding of the comments and the questions of others from your supervisor, from your team, your peers, and customers. Share what you know in an open and honest manner, which will garner appreciation and trust with your employees. And finally, you must motivate and inspire others. Motivating and inspiring others requires you to encourage and empower your employees so that they achieve and excel in an environment of continuous learning. Coaching and feedback is critical as your team members will rely on your direction and guidance and how well they are performing their jobs and what they need to do to improve. As a leader, you must continue to develop and strengthen these 3 key skills. They will be the solid foundation for bringing out the best in others while becoming an effective and admired leader. Effective leadership today cannot be one size fits all. It must be flexible and situational. Getting the best performance out of others requires using different approaches and behaviors in how you direct, correct, and reward performance. In other words, it means using a variety of leadership styles at the right time and in the right way so that you can inspire and empower others to achieve more. Ken Blanchard's situational leadership model is one of the oldest frameworks for leadership styles, but it's still relevant today. Some of the most common leadership styles laid out in his model include, first, directing. Directing is the basic level of leadership style used nearly for all new employees who need guidance and direction. With this style, you tell people what they have to do, how to do it, why it needs to be done, and when. Coaching. Coaching is used for those who demonstrate some competence, but they still need some guidance and consistent check-ins and feedback for improvement. This is the basis of creating strong commitment in the future. And then there's supporting. Supporting is when followers are now competent in the job, but somewhat inconsistent in their performance, and they're not as committed to the end goal. This style will guide them towards achieving sustained performance. And delegating. Delegating is used for the follower who feels fully empowered and demonstrates strong skills and strong commitment. They are able to work and progress on their own, and the job of the leader here is to monitor progress and still be a part of some decision. There are many more models and styles out there, such as transactional versus transformational leadership, servant leadership, and emotional intelligence. If you'd like to learn more on this topic, take a look at the Leadership Styles and Models course with Alexander Lyon on LinkedIn Learning. Leadership is an ever-evolving skill, so in order to succeed, you must be adaptable and open to learning new styles and approaches for bringing out the best performance in others. Leaders are facing unprecedented change, overwhelming complexity, and increased competition. The shifts in the workforce, the marketplace, and technology are in the global workforce, and they require a paradigm shift in the way that we think and behave. So let's explore 6 critical competencies that every 21st century leader should possess. The first one, developing a strategy. This describes where you would like to see your department, your division, or the project go. It must be clear and concise and include a framework of how you're planning to get there. At the end of the year, I usually take my team on a planning retreat to lay out the direction or the strategy for the upcoming year. It's an opportunity for me to cast the vision, to get them inspired, to seek their input, and foster collaboration among the team. The second one, drive for results. Every leader is expected to produce results, and this comes by having the right resources, support, and equipment in place. During my planning retreat, I'm clear on the performance expectations so that I can provide the right level of coaching and guidance. I lay out what success looks like at the end of that year, and then I set milestones along the way to recognize and celebrate them. The third one, leading a diverse workforce. Now, effective leaders hire great talent that comes in all shapes, sizes, races, ethnicities, thinking styles, abilities, and many more. One of my keys to being a successful leader has been getting to know each person on an individual basis and being willing to learn what motivates them, how they think, and how they see the world. The fourth one is communicating effectively. As you know by now, communication is the underlying success factor in all that you do as a leader. Not everyone communicates in the same way, but I've learned that everyone wants it consistently and accurately. So I've adapted the what, how, who, and when I communicate. More importantly, I am open and transparent and willing to listen to what others need. Number 5, trust and integrity. A leader is successful when others see that they are open, candid, and trusting. Behaving in a way that demonstrates the core values of the organization shows that you are a person of high standards and personal integrity. Honor your commitments and collaborate as a team player who never undermines others for personal gain. Every employee respects a leader who treats everyone fairly and consistently. Number 6, as a leader, you must consider a broad range of internal and external factors when problem solving or decision making. There are many complexities to be mastered, so it is important to gather relevant information and understand the relationship between problems and issues. Look, self-development plays a key role in ensuring that you are keeping abreast of the latest trends, taking advantage of additional learning opportunities, and seeking guidance from seasoned leaders. So over the next 60 to 90 days, I challenge you to commit to developing at least one of these skills. Workers today are demanding that our workplaces be more inclusive, welcoming, and a place of belonging where they can bring their best selves to work. Therefore, as a leader, you must re-examine and enhance the workplace culture to be more reflective of the needs and the expectations of a new generation of workers. This is a really hard change management process, especially in 100-year-old companies. So, how do you really move the needle? Let's first define what each of these mean and then explore what strategies we can use. Culture consists of the norms, values, behaviors, and attitudes that the company rewards or holds in high esteem. It's the character and the personality of your organization and what makes your business unique. Belonging is a basic human need that we all have to be our authentic selves and to feel accepted without judgment or being treated differently. When this is missing, though, employees feel that they have to cover or downplay a part of who they are. Engagement is the level of positive emotional commitment that employees feel towards their job and the organization. When this is present, engaged employees actually care about their work and their company. They don't work just for a paycheck or just for the next promotion, but they work for the employer's best interest. All three of these are important to your organization's success. So what can you do? Here are a few proven strategies that I used when I was a Chief Diversity and Inclusion Officer. First one, assess your current culture and know what opportunities exist. To do this, I've used culture audits, employee surveys, SWOT analysis, and focus groups to determine where the gaps are and what opportunities exist. Number 2, I developed a shared vision for diversity and inclusion that is aligned with the company's strategic objectives. And it's also important to encourage diversity of thought and show value for all perspectives and ideas. As a leader, I was intentional about hearing all of the perspectives in a meeting, and I would look for ways to use the best ideas. I encouraged healthy debate, and I thanked everyone for their ideas. I also sent out the agenda ahead of time to allow those who were more introspective the time to process. And remember, your job as a leader is to invest in line leadership development for building new skills and competencies necessary to lead this new generation of workers. Much of the important work that I did was educating leaders on how their behaviors impact every area of the employee experience, such as hiring, promotions, development, and pay, as well as their role as agents of the company. There are many more strategies that I could share on this topic. I covered a lot more in my LinkedIn Learning course on inclusive leadership, so be sure to check it out. Are you the kind of leader who can be trusted by others? I hope so, because trust is the foundation of strong leadership, and it is at the core of any relationship or organization's success. I have found several common strategies for building and maintaining trust. For starters, communicating clearly, openly, and honestly is one of the most effective ways to establish and enhance trust. Establishing trust also includes leading by example and walking the talk. There is nothing more damaging to trust than to say one thing and do another. Never forget that your team members and other followers are always watching, and they're taking cues from you. Actions speak louder than words, so show them that you can be trusted by walking the talk. Treating others with respect is a must for building trust. I respect others by extending kindness and warmth, having a regard for their feelings, and showing civility. Many of the people on my team look, act, and think very different than I do. But because I treat them with respect, they appreciate working for me. Establishing trust is following through on commitments. A failure to keep a promise without advance warning follow-up, or an apology can harm your credibility and the level of trust. Followers also appreciate it when you can own up to your mistakes and avoid finger-pointing and blaming. By apologizing when you're wrong and seeking to first understand by asking questions and listening intently will increase your trustworthiness and send a message to your employees that it's okay to make mistakes. Think about which of these strategies you're currently doing well. Commit to at least one of them that you need to further develop in your efforts of building trust. And keep in mind that it takes time to establish trust and that it's a process and not an event. The ability to build relationships up, down, and across the organization is key to your success as a leader. When done well, it can help you build greater trust, get more things done through others, like teamwork, and increase your job satisfaction. The first key relationship that you must build and foster in order to achieve these benefits is with your boss or direct supervisor. It's important to get a clear understanding of each other's needs and expectations. Here's 5 things that I did to build a great relationship with my last boss. I initiated consistent meetings with him and I kept him in the loop on my projects. I asked about the best way to communicate with him. I got a clear picture of what successful performance looked like. I shared with him what level of support I needed from him, and I was honest about my development goals and my career aspirations. The second relationship that you must build effectively is with those whom you lead, whether it's your direct reports or a project team. The best way to do this is first find out what drives them and ask what support they need, both individually and as a team. Find out the best way to communicate and share what you expect from them. It also requires that you be honest, dependable, consistent, and authentic. And treat them with respect, using the platinum rule of treating others the way that they want to be treated. The third key relationship is with other colleagues and coworkers. These are your peers who may have no positional authority over you or you over them, but having good relationships with them can also impact your success. The strategies and practices that I provided in this video are designed to help you be known, be liked, and be trusted. I encourage you to select at least 1 or 2 of the strategies that I just talked about that will enable you to build relationships more effectively. Can you articulate the top 3 strategic objectives or priorities of your organization? Do you know what keeps your senior executives up at night? Can you make sound business decisions? This gets at business acumen, and every successful leader should possess it. Simply put, business acumen is defined as understanding the context in which the company operates and utilizing that information to make solid business decisions and to solve problems. Early in my role as a leader, I received great advice from my mentors and coaches on how to develop and demonstrate business acumen. Implementing these 5 steps enabled me to be a successful frontline leader. First, learn the business operations. This includes challenges, the needs, the language, products, services, the staff, customers, communities, and the financial implications. Learn how other departments and projects interconnect so that you can develop a big picture in which to make smarter and more strategic decisions. Second, I had to learn how to speak the language of business and of my company. I did this by taking courses on business, economics, accounting, and finances, reading books and attending industry-specific conferences, and learning how to read financial reports. That was a huge benefit. I read the company's annual reports and its operating plan, and most of the time it's posted on the company's website. Also, research on social media what is the word on the street about your company, and read consumer reports to stay on top of trends and to hear what customers and clients are saying. Third, I developed knowledge, skills, and competencies that were needed in my field. I became a subject matter expert and the go-to resource in my company. Fourth, listen, observe, and absorb what's being said in meetings and around the office. Ask questions when you don't understand something. And get to know the other leaders across the organization. But more importantly, be willing to step up and take on new assignments and participate on project teams across the company, even if you feel like it's a stretch. And finally, secure a mentor. This should be somebody who demonstrates the business acumen and the associated skills and knowledge that you seek, and who would be willing to share their secrets to success with you on a regular basis. By following these 5 steps, I developed the kind of business acumen that enabled me to offer real solutions for real problems in the organization. It also positioned me as a valuable resource in my department and across the company. So I encourage you to just list at least 3 things that you can do to further develop your business acumen. And if you'd like to learn more about this topic, be sure to take the course on business acumen in the LinkedIn Learning Library. Think about the most effective team you've ever worked on. What attributes made it so effective? What were some of the attributes of the leader who created the environment for that team? Increasing team effectiveness begins with you. Having the right attitude, temperament, the right level of trust, creating the right environment that fosters the success of the team. Here are a few practices that you can use for increasing team effectiveness. Start with assessing the kinds of skills and strengths and talents that you currently have on the team. Then seek to fill those gaps to ensure that you have a well-rounded and fully capable team. Next, set clear expectations as to how the team should function and cast a clear vision, purpose, and mission statement. And then set the goals and share what success looks like. What's worked well for me is to allow the team members to be a part of this process so that they have some skin in the game. They will be more invested when they feel included. But if you create it by yourself and you throw it at them, you're likely to get some resistance. Also, ensure that the team has the right resources and the support in order to achieve the goal. And this can be in the form of technology, communications, coaching, training and development, and the like. Another great practice is to help the team identify the roles that each person will play. This is an excellent way to highlight each individual's strengths and to further develop their belief that they will achieve a better outcome together. For example, they can discuss when certain people will lead and others will embrace followership, as well as how will they deal with conflict. Another practice that has worked for me is to have the team discuss how are they going to hold each other accountable. And then I share with them how I'm going to provide support, feedback, and verify their milestones. A key attribute to increasing team performance is showing recognition and appreciation for the team's achievements. And it creates team camaraderie to have each of them do the same for each other. Lastly, when the project or all the tasks conclude, I like to facilitate a discussion on what did we learn. This allows the team to share their successes, mistakes, their lessons, as well as what will they do different in the future. It's also a great practice to have them share learnings with other similar teams and projects so that they can avoid any of the mistakes that were made and can also learn more efficient ways to approach their project. Your success as a leader is all about enabling others to grow more, to become more, and to achieve more. Research on leaders over the past 2 decades has demonstrated that leaders spend from around 75 to 90% of their time on communication activities. Additionally, it reveals that professionals who communicate effectively and confidently go further, faster in their careers than those who don't. Communication can happen in many different forms, but what's most important is to convey a message that impacts and influences the listeners. Communicating with impact and influence as a competency is the ability to persuade or convince others to support an idea, an initiative, or request. As a certified speaking professional, I deliver nearly 100 speeches a year. I also lead a team and work with many clients every day, so I know the hard work and practice that goes into communicating information. Let me share a few helpful hints that have enabled me to do it successfully with impact and influence. My 3 C's matter. Be clear, concise, and compelling. In other words, I am over-prepared and so comfortable with my content so that I deliver a well-crafted message, one where I am seen as the credible source or the subject matter expert. First impressions matter. We all know that they are formed in the first 3 to 5 seconds. So I consider my presence, meaning how I dress and how I show up every day. I also consider how I introduce or open a conversation in the first few seconds. This is key to the listener. What impression do you make on others about who you are? Body language matters. I am always keen to making eye contact and smiling and using affirmative facial expressions and gestures and watching my posture. All of these give off a certain aura about you. Well, what aura do you give out to others? Listening skills matter. This is perhaps one of the most underutilized skills. So I've challenged myself to listen to understand instead of listening to respond. And I still do. Who you communicate with matters. You must be able to tailor your communication to the right audience. So for example, when I had to present a project update to my board of directors, I made it much more high level and I spoke about organizational objectives. But when I presented that project update to my direct reports, I went into a bit more detail and explanations at the department level. Being able to communicate with impact and influence, it takes hard work. It takes skill, and it takes a lot of planning, but it's necessary to develop if you want to be an effective leader. I can't stress enough how communication is the one skill that can make or break your career. So focus on which of these tips you can use to enhance your own effectiveness. One of my mentors used to tell me, if you're not ready to deal with change, you're not ready to lead. Organizations today are facing rapid changes in technology, the global economy, market demands, and worker expectations. And with all of these shifts, we have to be able to do two things. We got to anticipate and respond to rapidly changing conditions. That's agility. And we've got to recover quickly and remain productive and positive. That's resilience. Otherwise, we run the risk of becoming irrelevant. One of the biggest changes that I faced was when my employer at the time announced a merger with another company, which also meant a shift in the leadership. I remember feeling a sense of fear for my job, lots of anxiety, and I had many questions and even some frustration about the lack of communication. Ever been there? On the flip side, I've had the task of leading my division and my team through a major change when the company lost a large account and we had to make some tough decisions, such as cutting staff and programs. I saw them experience many of the same fears and questions and uncertainties that I did. And I must admit that I failed the test of agility and resilience at the time. I neither anticipated the change nor did I respond quickly or even in a positive way at first. In fact, I felt like change had happened to me. It was a really tough, lengthy, and emotional process, but with some great coaching and some experience under my belt, here's what I learned. Leading change with agility and resilience means that you've got to throw out the old way of thinking and doing things and look for possibilities and opportunities in the change. I had to help my team understand the why behind the change and what it would and could mean for them and their jobs. This was about taking care of their emotional and their psychological responses to the change, which we all experience in the midst of transitions. I also learned the importance of involving the team early on in the process and allowing their input. Hearing them out garnered greater buy-in and commitment to the change. And lastly, I learned that you've got to constantly communicate about the change so that people feel informed. Great leaders recognize that they have to deal with change all the time. Their personal change first, and then organizational change. Key to our success is exercising agility and resilience so that we are not caught unprepared to deal with it and so that we can lead others through it in a very positive way. Dealing with conflict is one of the most uncomfortable areas of a leader's job. And far too many leaders have not honed the necessary skills to effectively deal with it. Here are a few approaches that I've seen work. First, don't ignore it or avoid it. Confront it. This is often the hardest to do because most people don't like confrontation. But when confronting an issue with someone, be careful to do it at the right time, in the right place, using the right tone of voice, and the right choice of words. For example, I had to have a difficult conversation with a team member about raising his voice and using foul language and throwing wrong accusations in a meeting, and I had to make sure that I dealt with it as soon as possible, and I did it at a time when I was not upset, rushed, or distracted. It's critical not to damage the relationship or exacerbate the issue by embarrassing the person publicly or by returning the same behavior. Secondly, you must identify the source or the reason for the conflict without making assumptions. Focus on the problem and not on the person. In this situation, I asked him to explain his behavior and his understanding of its impact. And then I shared how it made me feel and the impact that it had to the rest of those in the meeting. Thirdly, I asked him how he planned to resolve it and how he could ensure that it wouldn't happen again. And sometimes it may be a direct apology to the person and to those affected. In this case, this is exactly what he did. What's important in this step is to get acknowledgement on the effect of the behavior and to move past it to actions for mitigating it and coming to a mutual agreement. Yes, I know, you might ask, what if the person doesn't acknowledge or apologize for their actions? Well, you can restate the effect or the impact that the behavior had on you. You can point them to the company values or the code of ethics. And if you are their direct supervisor, you can document the instance and put it in their personnel file with a warning of the consequences if it happens again. And you may have to escalate it to the next level supervisor or to HR. Remember, not all conflicts can be fully resolved, but we can agree on how we will work together going forward. Think about the climate that we live and work in. Many have coined it an era of disruption, a polarizing environment, the decade of movements, and the most globally diverse workforce ever. With all of these realities, leaders must be armed with the tools and the skills on how to lead across these differences, and that means sometimes having difficult conversations. In addition to managing poor performance, disengaged workers, violations of company policies, one area that causes great consternation for leaders is how to address sensitive topics like race and gender, religion, politics, sexual orientation, disability, and the like. As a Chief Diversity and Inclusion Officer and an HR executive, I've dealt with countless issues such as these. Here's a recent example. I was coaching a male leader who had an employee that was the only female of color and on an all-male team. She complained to him about feeling overlooked for promotions and was excluded from team activities, and she was demeaned in meetings by her male counterparts. Now, he was uncomfortable having the conversation with her about her complaint because of her gender and her ethnicity. But here's a checklist of tips that I shared with him on how to deal with this issue. And it's also how I've coached countless other leaders on how to handle similar issues. First, create a safe space by building trust and rapport. And practice active and humble listening. Suspend judgment and assume positive intent. Be clear about what you want to achieve in the conversation. Stick to the facts and avoid opinions. Lean into your discomfort and admit that you don't know, but you are seeking understanding. Practice empathy, avoid debate and defensiveness, and involve HR. Now, this is an important tip. While leaders have to deal with these kinds of sensitive issues, it is always a good idea to get HR involved because the nature of the complaint was about the workers' employment rights being violated. In this example, I coached the leader to do just this. Having difficult conversations are a part of every leader's job, the one that they often avoid. But when leaders don't handle it appropriately, it can lead to a negative outcome. But where difficult conversations are openly addressed and people feel heard, they feel listened to, and the issue is resolved, the result is a win-win. Think of a difficult conversation that you had. What worked well, and what could you have done differently using some of the tips that I just shared? Kudos for completing this course because it demonstrates your commitment to investing in yourself. I know that we've covered a lot in this course, but the truth is, there's a lot more to learn. So don't stop here. I didn't become a great leader overnight. I, too, had to evolve as a leader. It took years of taking courses and working with a mentor and a coach and reading books and articles on effective leadership and attending conferences. I also studied great leaders both in my organization and from afar, and I learned what they did well. And guess what? I observed a number of bad leaders, and they too taught me what not to do. Today, I still study leadership through podcasts, webinars, TED Talks, LinkedIn learning courses, and ebooks. In other words, I'm a lifelong student, and I encourage you to do the same so that you can have sustained success. I also encourage you to take LinkedIn learning courses. Here are a few that I recommend. Inclusive leadership, leadership foundations, leadership styles and models, building professional relationships, having difficult conversations, and so many more. Access the handout in the exercise files. It summarizes the key takeaways from each of the videos in this course, and it contains some reflection questions for you to think about. Remember, the workforce and the workplace are undergoing significant changes and complexities, and leadership is at the core of any company's success. Organizations want to be great places to work. They want to attract and retain top talent. They want to be competitive and innovative, and they want to be high-performing workplaces where all talent can thrive and drive business results. The reality is, they can't achieve any of these without effective leadership. So take the learnings from this course, continue to evolve as a leader, and go and help make your organizations a better place, because what the world needs now is effective leadership.